AFMC is really known.
And also make sure
Hello and welcome into this week's edition of AFMC TV. We're so glad you're joining us. So let me ask, how's your throat? A little scratchy? How's your sinuses? Little runny? Little postnasal drip? Anybody else having a hard time staying healthy right now? Well, joining us today is Dr. Chad Rodgers, our medical director here at AFMC. And that's right, I feel like we should have some tissue here. But we are here to talk about how to stay healthy this time of year. We are indoors now more than ever before. It's cold, the heaters are cranking. How do we do it?
I know. We're just in the throes of cold and flu season.
We are.
You know, what I really love is, we spend so much time with family during the holidays too, and there's always like, you need to wear a hat or you'll get a cold, or you need to put on shoes, you're going to get sick. And actually, there's nothing to kind of prove that. But there are a lot of good things that we can talk about that are helpful in preventing cold and flu.
So what are some of those healthy ways?
Yeah. So I think, of course, as a pediatrician, the first thing that I always tell people is, get that flu shot, get that pneumonia shot, get your COVID shot. Prevention is the biggest way to stay healthy. So making sure you get those are easy check-off things, easily available in the pharmacy or at your doctor's office. But the other basic thing that we just can't ever stress too much enough is just good hand washing. Before you eat, be very conscious about touching your eyes and nose. That's the most common thing. You touch a doorknob, then you walk in, you push your eyes a little bit or you rub your nose. Those are the ways that viruses are most commonly spread, or, through handshaking. So a lot of people will go to elbow bumping during the cold and flu season. And I think the other thing we can do out of courtesy for each other, especially since we are getting a lot of time during the year. I mean, we all have colds and sniffles, and but if you're having fever and like significant cold symptoms, like you feel bad, stay at home. I mean, just
I love you, but I don't love you that much.
Right. Just courtesy to people, So trying to keep others well as well. So I think those are probably the kind of the big crucial things to try kind of keeping yourself well and keeping others well this season.
I had a thought when I was thinking about this topic. Humidifiers.
Yeah.
Is that something that could, in a way, help you stay healthy because you've got some of the moisture in the air? Or could that actually be the reverse and could make you sick in a weird way?
Right. So humidifiers are probably kind of underutilized a little bit. I mean, here in the South, typically we're kind of humid and the air stays kind of moist, but during those winter months, it does get really dry. And then we also, when we run the air inside our house with central heat and air, that dries out the air. So we've all woken up in the morning and felt congested and crusty and our throats sore. And so that's where humidifiers are real helpful. It kind of keeps everything kind of moist, keeps the mucus moving, I would say, keeps things kind of loosened up. And it also helps with like dry lips, dried nose. People get a lot of nosebleeds in the winter because of that dryness. Just, the nose gets crusty and then bleeds. So those are so they can be really helpful. Now, you have to be conscious of the humidifier. People tend to just run them a lot and then leave them. And then you got to do a little maintenance, just make sure, make sure it's clean, make sure that mold's not building up and stuff like that. And then be real careful about what you put in the humidifier. Those are some things that are kind of popular, but sometimes they can kind of make them kind of gunky as well. So if you're going to use Vicks, put it on you. If you're going to use some sort of patch or something, but don't put it in the humidifier because that will kind of gum it up and make it not work as well. But they can be super helpful to kind of keeping things moist and helping with that morning dry throat and that dry nose, and dry lips. And it's good for your skin. So
nice.
Yeah, moisture is always good.
Well, let's also talk about the obvious, and that is vitamin C, and I might even throw in vitamin D here too.
Yeah.
Do we need to amp up the vitamin C just as part of a daily routine, or do we amp up the vitamin C when we start to feel like, something might be trying to get a hold of me?
Yeah, so usually those things are good if you kind of take a little bit every day, just so you sort of not trying to make up for a deficit of vitamin C. So, you get a lot of good vitamin C through fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. So making sure that your diet is good throughout the year. Supplements are good. What we know about vitamin C is it does boost your immune system. It's the things in your body that help you fight infections. Vitamin C actually can help make it stronger. Lemons are also another good source and oranges, good sources of vitamin C. So kind of getting those in to kind of make the immune system. Sometimes if you get it on the back side, then you're kind of making up for whatever, and your body's already kind of trying to catch up. So eating healthy, stay healthy. Consider doing a supplement. We know it's not harmful. Vitamin D is good. Not getting a lot of sun during these winter months.
It can be tough.
Yeah, and then we're not, a lot of us do a lot of dairy, so another source of vitamin D. So trying to get out and get some when you can, but a vitamin D supplement's not a bad idea. But your body stores vitamin D in fat, and so you have to be very careful about not taking too much. So would probably ask your doctor, ask your pharmacist, what's the right dose of vitamin D for you?
Okay, so one thing we're really seeing right now in the news is just the onslaught of flu, RSV, both those parties happening at the same time.
Yeah.
What are you seeing?
Yeah.
And then how are you guiding parents as they are bringing their children in?
Yeah. So everybody's kind of talking about the trifecta right now. And that's, what we commonly see, the flu and RSV and now COVID. It was kind of nice. We're kind of forgetting about COVID for a while.
Yeah.
It seems to be kind of coming back a little bit. I think it's kind of here to stay, and we'll see it seasonally like we do other things.
Sure.
But then people forgot about the flu,
Yeah.
So, but people are kind of, the things that we did during the pandemic, like masking, staying at home, that kind of prevented us from being exposed to these viruses. But it also, part of life is getting exposed to things, building immunity, and then responding to that. So people were at home. They weren't, especially young children, weren't exposed to RSV or flu for the last 2 years. So they're really, if they're not immunized against the flu, there is no vaccine for RSV. They're walking into the season, they're unimmunized. They could get sick, and the first time they get sick is usually sometimes the worst. Mm-hmm. So, those are sort of the big things. I think, again, making sure you got your vaccines are helpful. RSV is just a booger of a cold, no pun intended. It's just a very annoying cold. A lot of kids will get very sick from it, but most kids, it's just a really annoying, contagious cold, and it moves to the household, and we all get it, and it's just, it lasts for weeks, and it's just not a very fun cold at all.
And so adults could be susceptible to catching RSV. I mean, we hear it as it relates to kids.
Right.
I never really thought about it as an adult.
Yeah, in my younger days as a pediatrician, we saw a lot of RSV, and we tested for it. We still test for it because it is really contagious, and it does make very young children very sick. We didn't typically test adults a lot, but now when you go into the hospital, if you are sick, they test you for a lot of respiratory things because it's so important in tracking and knowing what's in the community. And also, even though there's no treatment, it kind of gives us an idea of what's present and what's causing the disease. But we now see RSV causing some disease in adults and really severe disease. So especially if you get that infection in combination with flu or with flu and COVID. So, if you get one virus, they're all out there. It is possible to get more than one thing at one time, which is just bad luck sometimes, but it can make you sicker. So it's been a tough respiratory season.
And for someone who doesn't know much about RSV, is this more centered in your chest or could get into your chest and develop into pneumonia if you're not careful?
Right. So that's one of the complications from RSV, and that's when kids get the sickest. But you also get a viral pneumonia, so it infects the airways, and those airways begin to produce a lot of mucus, and they also get really irritable, so they contract, and you get a lot of wheezing, and then it's just coughing, and your body's trying to open up your lungs, and it's trying to push that mucus out by coughing. But then when that doesn't happen, or when you get an area blocked off, then you have all that good mucus there for good pneumonia bacteria to start to grow, and that's when you kind of get to those complications. So usually you might get an RSV infection, might start to recover, and then get sick again, and that's a common time you really begin to worry about bacterial pneumonias. Let's
talk about Tamiflu. Is that still on the market? Does it still work if you catch it within a certain amount of time?
Yeah, Tamiflu is still around. The good thing is there's a lot of antivirals now for the flu. I typically use Tamiflu because that's real common in the pediatric population, but there are adult formulations of Tamiflu and other anti-flu medicines that actually are easier to take even. They can be very effective in shortening the duration of the illness and getting you better faster, but the real key is jumping on it really fast. So, people are always like, I don't know the flu. Usually you know you have the flu because it hits you and it comes on hard and fast and you feel bad. And at that point, I would talk to your doctor or pharmacist about getting tested and then talk to them about, are you a candidate for some sort of antiviral like Tamiflu to help you get better faster.
In our remaining moments, what is your one takeaway for parents?
Yeah, I think, it's respiratory season. You kind of have to let kids play. Colds are irritating. They're kind of part of life. Kids are going to have snot and sneezes, but some of that's sort of the normal mechanisms of how your body fights the infection. Yeah. So, we always hate wiping those noses, especially when they get red and raw and stuff like that. But, as long as your child's not having fever and they're eating and they're playing, if their nose is running and they're coughing, they're probably okay. Mm-hmm. I would still check with your doctor if it lasts for a while or if you have fever. That's always sort of the defining moment for me. Or if their appetite just significantly decreases, that could be another sign that things are getting worse. But otherwise, kids are going to get colds, and that's how we build our immune systems, and that's how when we get older, we can fight off those things when they come along.
And the best way to get over things quickly is that if you do have a fever, stay home.
Stay home, yeah.
Don't go to school, don't go out in public.
And especially with my teenagers, it's like I can't say, you need to rest, you need to rest, you need to rest. But hydration is really important, yes, and staying home.
Okay. Dr. Chad, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next week for more AFMC TV.